YouTube family. Welcome to another Two Family Homestead live stream. Woo!
This is so cool.
And there's the girls.
There's the girls.
Wait, that's what I do at home. I'm looking at this, my camera's over there. Yep. Ours is set up like that. Our string is so I bet you
Can you tell me all of your names too? So,
this is Robin. This is Mrs. Big Bear. And I'm Sherry. Well, you know me because I wrote you. And then you chatted with Daryl. And then her husband, who will come in here shortly, he's Jason. He's really not yeah. And they have Big Bear Homestead and 16 acres, 21 acres. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And our weekend consisted of chasing pigs, chasing cows out of the garden. Cows love kale.
Babysitting cows in the garden so that they could be trimmed around everything. I didn't have to run a string trimmer this weekend. Just ran hot cows.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the living room Saturday morning and I'm like, cow? And they next to me and go, what? There's a cow in the front yard.
At the front door. She was literally, she would have come in if the door had been open.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yes, and tomorrow, the reason we're here, the main reason we're here is because Robin's birthday is tomorrow, and Jason planned an awesome birthday party for her yesterday.
Yeah, a surprise birthday party on Saturday. It was really cool.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we came from Ohio. He did not came from Louisiana. She accepted her heart.
Yeah, she's 25.
My vibe, again.
Is there feedback?
Do you hear anything like this?
I don't. No.
Stephen, do you hear anything like that? I do not. I do not either.
Good evening, Jim's family. How are you? I just need you to be quiet because I'm really loud. Oh, Brenda, you're still canning butter. We saw that on How You Rock Very Hot. Those scrumptious and all of that.
Well, we'll just turn it down here. They'll just have to turn their volume up. So, there's no good.
Yeah, I'm turning right now. So anyway, I have had Stephen's schedule for quite a while. I'm down here.
6 months ago.
At least 6 months ago. And he lived in the state of my sister's. At home.
California.
And now he's in Tennessee, right, Stephen?
Yeah, we just moved in 4 days ago. This is Orleans.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's get him on the street.
Not bad. There he is.
Alright. Hey, everybody. He's having any great night. Well, you are more important than us. We want to hear all about your service, knowledge, market, how, everything.
Yeah, we will be picking your brain tonight.
So, a lot of people are scheduled to work at garden.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, you actually did living shots. Yes, I have. Yeah, that's basically the last 4 years. I was doing that in Lemon Grove, San Diego, and eventually I had 3 different lots that I rented or leased for free, actually, and I just talked to the landowners into letting me develop the property, make it look really beautiful, and then they got vegetables next week. That's the lease agreement. So yeah, I just thought about it. I made money doing this. I learned from Curtis Stone, the urban farmer, who's very popular on YouTube. So I followed a lot of his different methods as far as figuring out what to grow, succession planting, interplanting, a lot of different techniques like that is how you can make money on a small scale and selling the highest profit vegetables as well. So I really specialize in salad mix, as that is radishes and beets, herbs, green onions, things like that. Yeah, I know. I'm looking at some. No, I'm looking at some in the chat. Although the sounds are very good here. Apparently, it's not very good here. My volume. It's the guidestones. So look
See if we can get that fixed up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I was hearing that in my headphones a little bit. There you go. I don't know. I still sound like a little robot.
All right. Let's see if this is any better.
Turn the AC off too.
We have
R2D2.
there's absolutely no filters on, and everything sounds nice and crisp and clean here. So, Grizz or
No, they're still saying can't understand a word. Brad's in here.
Remember, they're behind us. Though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Am I listening to ghost voices?
Is that better?
All right.
Okay, that does sound better.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. We've
sounds cleaner to me.
absolutely no filters on. We have turned all the gain down.
Sound better. We turn the fan down, the air conditioners off. So if you see, Robin and I start to slide
And
fall
sweat
because
is
we-
all for your
because we
your
love you so much,
listening
we passed
pleasure.
out.
Welcome to Georgia, baby.
Well, when we got in the truck this afternoon, it registered 118.
I guess you turned off my sound because I can't hear anything.
Try it now.
Yeah, I don't hear anything either.
Great. Now I can't hear.
That's why it's much better because there is no sound.
So while we messing with the technical difficulties, we would like to take this time.
There we go. I can hear now.
There. Now, yeah.
I'm sorry, Stephen.
Oh, it's okay. That's pretty. It's a big technical thing you got going on here. So
It's a production.
Yeah, some weeks it goes
Yeah.
great, and some weeks we have these issues.
Okay.
He has taken over my dining room.
The whole dining room.
Literally, we took
There's
over the dining room.
computers, soundboards, monitors, switchers.
Can you
He showed him
Can you
pictures
get
of
the
it.
acoustic tile up by the next time we visit?
Yes,
Yeah,
we will
cut me
put the
a check.
reverb tile up next time.
I'm in an empty room right now, so I bet it's pretty reverby. That's hopefully this little.
It does sound
mic
like
is working.
that. When you started talking like you've only been there 4 days, I was wondering if that's what it is, that
Oh yeah.
it's bouncing off of everything in that.
Okay, Grizz says it's all good, so it's got to be good. If Grizz says it's good, so
Yep.
all right. So let's start over.
Sounds good. And if my mic sounds too reverby, I could just go outside. I don't know how the light will be out there, but just let me know.
I think you're fine. I've got it.
Okay.
I can hear you fine.
I can hear it fine.
All right, cool.
And we're the only two that matter.
What's that?
So you and I are the only ones that matter.
Well, okay. My goodness. Grandy Framing says it's perfect. All right. So anyway, getting back to Stephen. Stephen is now in Tennessee, which would be the Heartland area, sort of.
I'm outside of Chattanooga.
But what would Tennessee be considered? Heartland area of the United States? I'm looking at you because you're supposed to know
I'm in East
this.
Tennessee,
Why am I
so it's
supposed
like
to
in
know
the
this?
Appalachian Mountains, and it's Zone 7A.
Okay.
Sid is on.
Yeah, I know.
So you're in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yes.
Grace, I'll give
Almost.
Smudge a kiss
Yeah.
for you as soon as he stopped drooling.
Do you know Single Dad Homestead?
No.
I don't think I do.
Told you.
Okay.
He's in the heart of the Appalachia. I mean, mean, he's like at the top of the one mountain where you can just see the rest of it.
That
Must
we
be
can't get the
beautiful there.
camper out.
It is. I mean, I could spit and probably hit my house because of how high up we are.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful area.
I'll put it to you this way. There is absolutely no way, ever, unless it was brought in by helicopter, you could get your camper to Single Dad's house. Not gonna happen.
Okay.
Some of them turns up there, I'm in the Prius going, I don't know.
Then we're definitely going to pass on that one. So are you going to make your backyard there into your market garden?
Yeah, so what we ended up getting was 16 total acres, and 12 of it's wooded. There's about a half acre in the backyard, but I'm going to turn that into our homestead food system just for us. And then we have a front field that's about 4 acres, and then that I'm going to turn into an actual farm. So out there, I'm still in the planning phases. I'm not going to do anything out there till probably spring of this year. But for that, I want to do lots of fruit trees, some agroforestry, as well as vegetables, annuals out there as well. So annuals, perennials, and trees. And then hopefully run some animals through there as well. I really am a huge fan of like silvopasture, and I could run some chickens through there, or maybe pigs, or it's not that big of an area, so I can't really do cows, but
You can do cows.
I don't know.
I mean, how many acres you got?
It's like 4 in the front field, so I could run a few, but I just don't have enough pasture like to put them out somewhere else to let the grass regrow.
You could probably get away with maybe 6.
Yeah, probably.
6 cows. You do the intense grazing and
Yeah.
give yourself with 4 acres. You could definitely do. You could do a couple.
So Stephen,
Yeah, so we'll see.
Stephen, is it just you?
Yes, it's me and my wife.
Okay.
And,
Well, that's what I was getting to. We didn't want to.
Yeah.
We didn't want to say you were single if you're not.
No, I'm married. I've been married almost 5 years now.
Okay.
Honeymooner.
Honeymooner.
Yeah, still honeymooning. That's right.
So, what's your wife think of this endeavors of yours?
Oh, she loves it. She really likes living out in the country now too, and she wanted to get out of San Diego, and slowly but surely I've pulled her to my side of growing food, and she sees how amazing that is now. And my wife's actually from South Korea, and she's a real city girl. So we actually met there when I was teaching English. I was there in Korea for 2 years teaching English in 2013 and 2014. While I was there, I just realized I need to get back to doing farming, because I started farming actually I think it was 10 years ago now. I helped me and my best friend started a farm, about a 2-acre farm in San Diego, and I did that for about a year and a half. And eventually I wanted to travel because I wanted to live in another country. That had always been a huge dream of mine, and I had the opportunity, so I went and did that. And that's where I met my wife. And also, near the end of that 2 years, I was like, I had enough of the city. Like, I had that experience. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get out of there. I knew I wanted to farm again, and I wanted to, it's my passion. So I had to do it again. And that's when I came back to San Diego. I started farming again with that same friend Jared Smith of Jared's Real Food, who I started my farming journey with. Eventually, I wanted to start my own farm though, so we moved out to a family friend's house who they just bought their first home. They're a young family, and they had about a 3/4 acre backyard. So I took over about half of that area, and that's where I built my home plot of my market garden. And then I eventually expanded that into the neighbor's yard, and then another plot down the road, down the street, like 2 minutes away.
So, getting into your market gardening, what prompted you to do that, and what's your primary source of income through that market gardening? What vegetable, what greens, what?
Oh, sure. So market gardening, growing vegetables or flowers, it's two of the most profitable farming enterprises that you could do. Microgreens would be like maybe the third. If we're talking about growing food, cannabis would obviously be like the #1 plant that you could grow to make money.
Okay.
But that's never been my thing. I always wanted to grow food for people. I got into this for health reasons and to provide health to other people, because food is medicine. And so I live by that, and I want to introduce other people to that.
Yeah, I know cannabis is weed. Was there a personal reason from a health standpoint, something that happened to you?
Yeah, well, I've had different health problems myself. My family, my mom and sister have Hashimoto's disorder, which is a thyroid problem. So they have to eat a certain diet, like gluten-free and things like that. Otherwise, they'll end up having to take Synthroid, which is a synthetic hormone for their. Yeah, a lot of women have this problem.
Yeah.
It's very, very common.
Yeah, we know some people that do.
Sydney might want to get that checked then for him.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. What did you do with all your worms? Did they travel with you?
Oh, someone must watch the channel. I gave them or sold the whole system real cheap to my friend Natalie, and she's taking care of them now.
Natalie from It's a Good Life.
It's a Good Life.
From Oklahoma.
Yeah.
No, that's the wrong one.
She's a San Diegan also.
San Diego.
Yeah, Natalie.
Yeah, Natalie. Yeah.
Natalie.
My sister lives in San Juan Capistrano.
Matter of fact, we've had Natalie on the show. It's been a while. It's been a while, but we have had her on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. That's so cool.
And we met her at HOA.
No, you didn't. You met her at the Shindig.
Shindig? We did not meet her at HOA?
No, it was Shindig first, because that's when we first met her.
Okay.
At Jess and Jeremiah's place.
Okay. But yeah, real nice gal. Real nice gal.
She is, yeah.
Super smart.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess getting back to the veggies, like the things that made me the most money, hands down, was a salad mix that's baby cut greens. So I blended in 5 types of baby cut lettuces, arugula, kale, tatsoi, sometimes beet greens, and then I sold that in like half-pound or full-pound bags. And I could not grow enough of that. People just loved it. And what else? Microgreens are also very high profit. You just need someone to sell them to.
Touche, Sydney. Touche.
No, it ain't touche. I'm being nice.
I know you are. You're biting your tongue.
Stephen, are you able to watch the chat? I mean, that's what's prompting some of this here.
Oh, I can't see the chat.
You can't see the chat. Okay, so we just have to reflect. We can just tell him what everybody's saying. We can make up what people are saying.
Mm-hmm. Like the Naked Gardener doesn't know how to spell at all.
But Naked Gardener says that you are one of the celebrities that he watches. Next to,
I'm not a celebrity, but I just grow food and film it.
but apparently another one that he likes is Fit Farmer.
Yeah, he does.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice.
So do you know Fit Farmer? Do you know Mike?
I don't know. Well, I've talked to him a little bit online, but I've never met him in person. I'm hoping to be able to go to North Carolina and visit a bunch of my friends, like Mike and like Honey Tree Farm, a bunch of different people over there. Sell the land and.
Oh yeah.
There's so many cool people in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And there's cool people in Georgia too.
Absolutely, everywhere. The South has amazing people. I love the South. I'm so excited to be here.
Unlike Texas.
So what prompted you to move halfway across the country?
Well, I sort of always knew that I would leave California if either I'd live in another country or I'd live somewhere else in the U.S. One big there's 2 big drivers. one is freedom from tyranny, and the second is I wanted to own my own land and have many acres of land to be able to do whatever I wanted and to farm on a larger scale. So those were the two big reasons.
It seems like there's this mad exodus coming out of California, and everybody that's leaving is saying the same thing. And the very first thing that they say, escape tyranny.
It's unbelievable, man. Yeah, like the amount of people that are going to leave in the next year is going to be unbelievable. From New York, Connecticut, California. I've heard that real estate agents in Arizona, Idaho, Washington, everywhere are just completely booked, and it's hard to even like find properties now to buy because people see the writing on the wall. And with all the social unrest, the pandemic, and all these things, the food shortages, it's people see what's going on, and if you have the means, it's a good idea to get out of the city, in my opinion.
Okay, and just in case anybody's not paying attention, we did open up the phone lines. So anybody that would like to call in, the number is on the screen.
Sydney calls in, his wife dialed the phone. Please ask Stephen if he plans to stop by the Hollers homestead in NC. They can use some gardening help.
I'd love to go over there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of them.
They are good people.
They are, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I hope to make a trip over there somewhat soon. I was gonna do a lot more traveling until COVID happened, and that just screwed everything up for going anywhere. And so I don't know. Hopefully soon though.
Well, this is our first trip this year. Normally we would have been to
Shindig, Bayou Bash, The Gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, all that by now. But
we would have been to the Shindig, the Bayou Bash, and then on to Homesteading Life, but we ran into a issue with somebody watching.
So what got you started into YouTube?
Teaching English in Korea, I really fell in love with teaching, and I never imagined I would ever be a YouTuber or even teaching in front of a classroom. I used to be super shy. I hated talking in front of groups. I just was scared to death of it. But after years of doing teaching and other experiences, I really started enjoying it. And so I wanted to just combine like my two passions of doing something that helps people and teaching them, and then combining that with farming and growing food, because I just believe there's nothing better for your physical health, your mental health, for freeing yourself from tyranny itself, from all these different systems that are trying to control us, whether it's the government or the pharmaceutical industry or whatever it may be. I see growing food as a way out of that system, and being more self-sufficient is it's the best alternative to everything that's being forced upon us. So I wanted to create a YouTube channel to show people, hey, look at me, I'm in a backyard. If I can do it in a backyard and then become successful enough to get land someday and then farm on a bigger scale, I just wanted to show that whole journey, and also to just teach people the skills it takes to grow food and to do it naturally without chemicals, to make your own nutrients, to make your own compost, to raise chickens. I just love showing people that they can do it, and it's really not that hard.
So what part of Korea were you in?
I was in South Korea, obviously, and in Incheon, which is where the international airport is. It's like 45 minutes west of Seoul.
I was down when I was in the Marine Corps. We were doing an op. I was down in Pohang.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I know where that is.
Yeah, it's real southern part.
It's more country for our area.
Yeah, it was kind of secluded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the country out there is really beautiful too.
Mm-hmm. It's very beautiful out there.
So.
Nobody called in yet?
Nobody has called in yet. But we're certain that it is working here. So, but we're gonna check it on this end. So Stephen, your property that you had in California, was it in the country? Yep. Was it in town? Was it?
San Diego.
Oh, It was very much in town.
Very much in town.
Lemon Grove is like it's a little suburb in the county. It's like a 15-minute drive to the airport. You know, it was all suburbia, just all around me. It used to be, my grandma actually lived there when she was growing up, and they used to have, you know, a dairy and cows and lots of farms. It's called Lemon Grove because there's just citrus orchards everywhere. It has an incredible climate there. It frosts maybe once every 8 years. It doesn't go above 95 really. So it's just really ideal growing situation there.
How far away from Camp Pendleton were you?
Maybe 35, 40 minutes.
I was gonna say 35,
something like
40
that.
minutes, yeah. I spent a little bit of time out there.
So like the farmer's market that I sold at was in La Mesa, which is about a 7-minute drive from my house. So that was really, really amazing to be that close. So there's a lot of advantages to growing in an urban area if you can get the land. And there's a lot of open lots and people that aren't doing anything with it. You just need to find out who they are and ask them. And when I got my second plot of land that I leased, I actually reached out to people on the internet there's a website called nextdoor.com, which is kind of like a hyper-local Craigslist. And I posted on Facebook, and I got well over 20 families that were interested in having me coming there to garden and do my thing. And so I think it's just people are more open to this idea than ever, I think.
So
and I bet it's accelerated more since COVID.
So where's your homestead going to be? Are you going to be in Kentucky or in Tennessee?
In Tennessee.
In Tennessee?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We don't own. We have a mortgage, so the bank owns it, right? But we own in Tennessee, outside of Chattanooga.
Okay. Because like one of the reasons why we picked where we are was besides that it kind of God just threw it in our lap, but I have Athens and UGA about 45 minutes to the west of me. I've got Clemson and Clemson University about an hour 15 minutes to the east. Then I got Augusta and all of that down there to the south, about an hour and a half. And so I'm basically in the middle of a lot of good areas to where I can be far enough in the country where I can raise pigs, I can raise cows, I can raise goats, sheep. You got everything that I want to raise, and still have the ability to be able to go out and sell it, kind of like how you're talking about. The area that you picked in Tennessee, do you have something remotely like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, the area that I'm in, I'm like 50 minutes or about from Chattanooga. There's a place called Cleveland, Tennessee that I'm not too far from. There's Dalton, Georgia.
How far is Dalton?
And then Dalton is like 30 minutes south of the border, Tennessee-Georgia border.
Yeah, because Dalton is, I wish Robin was in here. I think Dalton's only about an hour and a half, 2 hours from us, from where we are.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we might have to meet up in Dalton one time.
That'd be cool.
Okay, you're being asked if there's any animals that you are planning to have that you couldn't have in California.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna have chickens again, and this time I'm gonna do meat birds. And in the future, as I'm planning my system, I'm trying to figure out if I do want to manage maybe some. I think I'd like to do some pigs, because I'm really into Korean natural farming, and there's some really interesting methods that they do with pigs that I'm interested in experimenting with. And like I said, doing the silvopasturing through my forest that I set up, like all my fruit trees, and doing cover crops, letting the animals graze that down. So we'll see. I have no concrete plans yet, other than chickens right now. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself yet.
Pigs, I absolutely think everybody should. If you have a homestead over an acre, I think you should have at least one pig.
Okay.
You may not have to do a breeding thing like how we do here, but I honestly think that everybody should have pigs one way, shape, or form. Because I read in John Seymour's book, The Self-Sufficient Life and How to Live It. He said he quoted. He said that the Irish say that the pig is the gentleman who pays the rent, and there is so much that you can do with pigs. Like we use our pigs as a workhorse here.
Yes.
They clear areas. They'll fix holes in dams, and then they make bacon. And so they they do all these wonderful things for you. We throw them in an area that when we're rotating the gardens, we throw them in that area the year before, so that way they can go ahead and start to till it up and fertilize it. And because one of the things that we're in the granite capital of the world, so in some places I may only be able to go down 2 inches, and then you start to hit some rock. In other places you can go down feet and not hit rock. And so that's one of the great things about the pigs is when they're in there rooting, they'll start flipping that stuff up. And if you have any type of ivy, poison ivy, just regular ivy, any of that stuff that you just don't want, trust me, I learned the hard way. We tried digging it up. We tried just going nuclear on it and spraying it to try to kill it because it was just overtaking it. It wasn't until we put pigs on it that they just destroyed it. They ate it all, rooted up everything, ate everything, and it was gone, and it hasn't come back. So, if anything...
Isn't that cool? Yeah, you work with God's design, and it all works out perfectly.
Yep, and it was awesome, because that's the area where my wife wants her outdoor kitchen, and it had years and years and years of ivy in it. And they just went in there, and it was less than 45 days, it was gone. So if because you said you had woods in that area, and that's one of the things I like to do, because wild briars and all that stuff, they can just pop up out of nowhere and get out of control. I love throwing my pigs back in there because it's also healthy for the trees, because they keep everything aerated and they're fertilizing everything back there. And they also they eat snakes. They're omnivores, so they'll eat anything that comes in their way if they can catch it. And so I highly suggest. I am a big fan of pigs, and it's not just because
I got to do it.
Not just because they make bacon. It's just because of what all they do, because they work hard.
Yeah, I love that. I'm really into animals doing the work for you. So sounds like I got to get pigs. I don't really have a choice now. I love bacon too, so.
Yeah. And we built a smokehouse, what was it, last year? Mm-hmm. And we smoked our first pork belly in there. Now, we made a mistake. We let it sit in the brine too long. But anyway, we still smoked it. I absolutely loved it, but I'm a huge fan of good salted country ham. And so that was kind of the salt level of the bacon. My girls loved it. Mama, not so much, but she still didn't stop her from eating it. But, and it was amazing. So there's no way that you can convince me in any way, shape, or form, as long as we've done this, that pigs are not a positive thing on a homestead.
Absolutely.
Saw another question back up here.
I know the Naked Gardener wants to know, he is so funny, if you're going to redesign your chicken coop.
Yeah, actually, I've been working on it in SketchUp, and I have made some adjustments to it. Like I want to add a rollaway nest box this time, and I did some other adjustments to make it a little bit easier to build and a little bit less wood, things like that. I'm going to build a mobile chicken coop as well.
Like an egg mobile?
Yeah. For just like the brooders, so I can just keep them moving.
Mm-hmm. Jason, this may be more of a question for you. How much space does 3 pigs require?
I saw that, and I don't really like answering that question because I don't really know their land and their requirements and what they're planning on doing with the pigs, because I like to move mine around as much as possible. And so I like to take as big of an area as I can, let them stay there for, a couple of weeks, a month, and then move them to the next area.
Well, under the assumption that you couldn't do that, what's the minimum amount, would you say?
What breed? because American guinea hogs are a smaller breed pig, so you could get by with less space. But if you're going to do a big Yorkshire, Berkshire, or Berkshire Hampshire cross like what we got, I mean,
But you can just size them like a T-shirt.
yeah.
You know.
You know, the bigger the breed, obviously, the more space they need, and I mean, it's really hard to say because you don't know. I mean, I don't know what she's got there, land-wise, that they can root up in with that first. You know, with where she's going to put them. How does she going to do that?
Yeah, Chris is saying a friend of his raises 2 pigs a year in a 30 by 30 foot area.
Yeah.
So.
I see you're pouring a lot of feed to them that way, where I don't really feed mine that much. And you know, one of the things, Steve, you know, our when we first got into pigs, we got taken advantage of. Because we didn't know a lot about pigs, and somebody went out and bought, and I guess they just caught up some wild hogs, some razorbacks, and we.
Oh my gosh!
And we ended up raising them. They might not have been full-blooded razorback, but they had some razorback in them, and we kept them in a, what was it, like a 30 by 90 pen, because there was 3 of them, and the thing about it was with those razorbacks, they would climb. It was just, you couldn't keep them penned up. And so we sent all of them to freezer camp, and then we went and got some Yorkshires. And everybody kept telling us, they're a commercial breed. You're not going to be able to get them to go out on the pasture like you want to do, and they're not going to be able to do this, not going to be able to do that. And we tried it, and it worked. And we had a boy and 2 girls, and it was my daughter's name to name them. So it was during the election time, and so it was Obama, Pelosi, and Clinton. And Obama got up over 700 pounds just on pasture. So you let,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and the thing is if you let them, you put them and move them around like they do, and they have a variety of things to eat. Like when we moved up here, they were able to get on black walnuts, and black walnuts is a natural dewormer. And so we never had we never had to worry about parasites or anything like that.
That's cool.
And so any pig you will be able to put out there on pasture, and you know that doesn't really take a lot to keep them in.
Do you use like the Premier One fencing, or how do you make the pens?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I started with the Premier One fencing, but the Premier One fencing is junk.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah, the guinea hogs, the American guinea hogs, small breed, walked right through it. It didn't last very long.
And damaged it.
And they snapped it, popped it, and you'd have to try to get this splicing kit to put back together. And their charger only lasted 6 months before I started really having trouble with it. A year, maybe tops. And it wasn't any good. Now I switched. I am now with Gallagher.
Okay.
And they have a fencing system that we're getting ready to put a video out on tomorrow that we are going to test for them to put behind pigs. We're going to put pigs on it. And,
cool.
And if it works, it's an absolute game changer. Everybody will be able to keep pigs in. I don't care if you got a half-acre lot. You'll be able to keep pigs with this fencing. But most of the time, when we first started, we started building our pig pens and our fencing system with pallets when we were on smaller acreage, because we kept those razorbacks on, what do we have, baby, 5 acres?
The Razorbacks?
Yeah.
No. It was 5 acres of the entire property.
Right.
Like they were literally in a pen that was...
Like 30 by 90 or something like that.
It was not big.
Yeah. And so, but we built it all with pallets. Now, one of the key things that we done with the pallets now is we have, like, because pigs don't sweat. And so you have, in the summertime, especially here and now we're in the foothills of the Appalachians, so we don't get as hot as they do in South Georgia or Middle Georgia, you know, but we still get warm. But pigs don't sweat. So you've got to be able to keep them cool somehow. You've got to be able to give them a mud pit or something, or they will climb in a water trough and and just really ruin your day, because you're going out there every 30 seconds trying to fill up your water trough. And so one of the things that we do when we hit the peak of the summer, we have pens that are on the backside of our pond that open up to the pond.
Okay.
And when you come to visit one day, you'll see there's like 800 different colors, because my wife has this thing about different colors. But it goes down into the pond, and you can see them, because we keep the boys and the girls separated. But you can see the girls are sitting out there. They're like big alligators.
Yeah.
But they're just like biting the water, and what they're doing is they're eating duckweed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, very nice.
So
that's really good for them.
That was really nuts. Yeah. I was really excited to stumble across that nugget of knowledge, and so when we get super hot down here, we do that, and then as we start to cool off, they go back down into the woods and stuff like that. And but one of the things we're going to end up normally it's just 2 or 3 strands of your aluminum wire on a really good charger, and that keeps them. And we start the first strand at about 12 to 18 inches, and then we may go one more up, maybe even 2, and that's just because we have a feral dog problem, and so we try to discourage them, but if we got a good boar out there, I don't really even worry about it, because the good boar will run the coyotes and the dogs off, or he'll catch them and eat them. So
very cool. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. Yeah, it's I'm really interested to learn a lot more about that. There's just so many things to learn in raising animals and growing food. It's just endless. You'll never learn everything. So
yeah, we've been doing this now about 10 years, Robin? Longer than that? We've been here 7.
Carol's
a long time.
Carol's 14. We started when she was, almost brand new.
So we've been doing it over a decade, 12 or 13 years. And we have made probably every single mistake that you could possibly make. And you're not that far. We have an open gate policy. If you want to come down here and check out how we do things. We don't do everything correctly. I'll be the first one to tell you, we're not the know all be all when it comes with this, but we do it works for us.
What works for you
at this particular time. And when people ask us what's the number one advice that you could give to a new homesteader, and I said, put this phrase in your vocabulary, and it's semper gumby, and that's just always flexible, because just because it's working right now this second doesn't mean in 5 minutes it's going to work again. And that goes with everything, especially with livestock, and especially in gardening. Just because it worked great last year doesn't mean it's going to work good again this year.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
So Stephen, where you're in your new location, do you already have things scoped out to proceed with some of your market garden plans?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing I'm going to do is in this back behind our house, it's about a ½ acre. There's some big white oak trees and things like this. We're going to cut those down so that we can have a whole open field back there, and then we'll probably do more of a designed garden back there with some raised beds and then some soil beds as well, and try to make it more of an aesthetically pleasing thing versus just straight production. But out on the 4-acre field, I've been trying to go out there and look every single day. It's a pretty interesting piece of property because it's not just flat back there. There's kind of through the center of the 4 acres, a bunch of runoff comes through there from when it rains. It's on a very slight slope, and on each side of that stream that goes through the middle of it, there's some raised area of different varying slopes, actually. So it's going to be really fun because I'm going to get to do earthworks and swales and planting on contour and a lot of these different techniques that I've been studying but haven't been able to really pull them off yet because I haven't had the right environment. But now I'm going to be able to do that. So, my mind's been spinning around maybe doing some water catchment with ponds, and so I can add in some more layers of the ecosystem out there. and a lot of just rainwater capture on these slopes, and there's even another half acre down there that's kind of up on one. It's like on this little plateau, and that I'm looking at that, and that looks like a good spot for the a part of the market garden, where I could do more intensive stuff there because it'll be easier to maintain that area. There won't be a water problem there, and so yeah, every day I'm just trying to go out there and think and brainstorm, and I've just realized over the years of building out properties that the first design is never the best design. And I like to go out there, and a lot of times I'll drop a map just on paper and put things places and think about them. I'll go out there and walk the property or measure things, put flags out there of what I'm thinking about, and then over time you just start coming up like, oh, wait a second, if I put that there, because there's so many variables, right? If I put that there and it rains, well, then this might happen. And well, what if I want to put vegetables next to it? Then what's going to happen? So, yeah, that's why I'm going to take like a good 6 months before I start really putting things in the ground out there, because I really want to have a really well-defined plan of what I'm going to do. And then I want to be able to sell the stuff too. So, is what I'm planting going to be profitable in this area? So I got to do more research on what do people want to buy out here, and I'll be experimenting with a lot more perennials too, because I want to plant things that are gonna be there even like after I die. I really like the idea of setting up an ecosystem and then walking away, and it can still operate even without me being there.
Okay.
It won't be managed as well, of course, but it would provide food.
Well, I know a lot of the people that we know and we visit and talk with all the time. They garden more from, I'm going to use the term sustainability aspect, not from a marketing aspect. They're saying to be more self-sufficient and so forth. And I kind of feel, and I could be wrong, but I kind of feel that you're approaching it from a monetary aspect to provide yourself an income from your growing, more so than sustainability. Is that correct?
I'd say that was the case with my previous property.
Okay.
The market gardening in the urban areas. It was all about making money.
Okay.
Because I needed to pay the bills, and I wanted to try to we lived very simply. We lived in a 250 square foot apartment. I was building my YouTube business, and then obviously the farming business. My wife was building a business, and then this whole time we were saving money, knowing that we wanted to go buy land somewhere else in America where we could, afford. And but going in on this property for me, because the Lord's blessed me with a lot of success with YouTube and being able to show people a lot of these techniques. And so I want to build a farm that, of course, makes profit, because I don't want to do things. I don't want to show people. I want to show people an example that they could take and run with. But I also want to display techniques that anybody could use. Gardeners could use them who don't care, that just care about sustainability and providing food for themselves, but also techniques that people who are farming and want to make a profit could also use those techniques to expand the profitability of their farm. Because my company's name is Nature's Always Right, because I just believe that the world was already designed perfectly. All of these systems work together in harmony. They're supposed to be stewarded by humans, and we can kind of bring out their full potential with our
Absolutely.
God-given mind and our creativity and all of these things. So that's why I really like the idea of the synergy between like what you see in a forest, like how a field becomes a forest over hundreds of years. And trying to incorporate those, it's called ecological succession, like trying to incorporate those ideas into a farm, but in a way that also makes the farmer money.
Well, I've also, and again, just an assumption that you're going to, with the property you have now, maybe gravitate towards some fruit trees and perhaps nut trees and different perennial bushes that produce
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm kind of leaning on the same direction that you are there.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. And I've been thinking about making value-added products are a fantastic way to make money at farming too. The least amount of profit comes from just growing the vegetable and selling it. If you can turn that into something like a jam or some type of medicinal supplement, or elderberry syrup is really popular right now. Things like this. You can grow garlic, but you can make black garlic. You can ferment a lot of these vegetables and sell the fermented thing. You're enhancing the flavors, the health properties, as well as making more profit at the end. So I'm considering those types of things into the design of what I plant as well. So I'm at the very beginning stages of this, so it's kind of hard to talk about exactly what I want to do, but I guess those are some of the ideas that are bouncing around in my head right now.
Stephen, I know you can't see the chat, but I do want to share with you that Stivers Homestead is in the chat.
And, hey, what's up, Stivers?
And they obviously speak very highly of you, and have added to the chat in here. So I just want to make you aware of that, since you can't see the chat.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I visited them like over 6 months ago in Kentucky, and then we made some videos together, and those just came out like this last week on my channel.
Now Zach knows he's welcome to call, so if he wants to call in and say hello, the phone line is open. So just thought I'd pass that along.
Suspicion.
Get him.
I'll tell you a little secret about Zach. Okay? Don't ever be sitting next to him in a game where you have to rely on his drawings. I'm just going to leave it there.
No Pictionary for Zach, huh?
No Pictionary for Zach.
No Pictionary for Zach.
No. He's smart as smart can be, but the boy can't draw.
All right. So what is your overall general timetable to do this? Are you just going to observe the land for 6 months for the remainder of this year and start next year? Is that what you're going to do?
That's what I'm going to do. So yeah, over winter I plan on grafting a ton of trees and propagating a lot of things that I want to plant out there. And I'm going to be documenting this whole process on my YouTube channel, and that's one of the main things I want to, besides just growing the food and that stuff, sort of thing. I want to show people how I do the whole thing and all the skills necessary to be able to do all that, and the things that I'm learning along the way. I've never used an excavator, but I plan on renting one so I can dig out my swales and things like this. So I'm just going to be able to show a lot more high-level techniques other than just kind of gardening stuff. And some of the other, I did some homesteading type stuff like chickens and things like that. But
something we haven't talked about that I really want to talk about here is your living accommodations to where you're at. Is this an off-grid place, or is off-grid totally out of the question, or are you?
I'd be interested in making this place off-grid. We have a well, but it is on city electricity.
Okay. All right. So, and the house is already fully up.
Yes.
You're not building something from scratch here, and.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we bought a home. We just wanted. I personally didn't want to have to deal with building a home. Also because I don't know. Like, what if I guess I worried about putting all this time and effort into building something, and then I decide to go to another piece of land or something like this. So we ended up finding a really amazing property though, so I don't envision us leaving at all. But I'm so into farming and growing food and raising animals that I just want to focus on that. So that's why we opted for buying a home that was basically ready.
So is the farming that you're planning on doing here, is it to the point where you need a tractor and
I could use a tractor. I'm envisioning, like in the beginning setup stages, I definitely will need a tractor, whether I borrow that from somebody or rent it, or maybe I'll buy one for to have for a while. But once the system's set up, I may not need a tractor, or I can switch to just using a BCS, walk behind tractor. I'm at least going to have a BCS to help with bed prep and things like this. At 4 acres, it's just too much to do by hand.
Sure.
So then, that's I'm excited about being able to show. We'll have a backyard, half-acre like homestead garden where it's just hand tools and stuff, and then I'll also have this front field, which will have techniques it's geared more towards farming.
You had mentioned your wife in a business, and we haven't really talked about that. Can you, or do you not want to share what her?
Yeah, I can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so she built her own online business too, and it's basically an online retail business.
Okay.
Where she sells designs that she makes, and so yeah, that's what she's had been developing the last few years. We both have online businesses now.
Okay, designs.
She designs T-shirts and different sayings and phrases, and they're like really good gifts for different for people, like
Okay,
if you're a doctor or a nurse, or you're graduating, or.
So she's kind of the words behind Hallmark.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, she sells on Etsy. Her shop's called 9 to None, and she designed all my shirts for my website.
Well, maybe one of our moderators can throw that out there for you.
Now, one of the things that I've learned, and it may be different up there in Tennessee, but we were looking at trying to rent like a skid steer or something like that here recently, and it actually, the amount that they want for a week plus delivery and pickup, it came out to a total of, if I bought a brand new John Deere setup that I would need, it would basically break that up. What I would have spent on that skid steer would have been anywhere from 3 to 6 months of payments on that tractor. So that might be something and that was a brand spanking new one. And so if you go in and you look and try to buy a used tractor, which we're going to be looking at possibly doing, you may end up saving on the long run, because one of the things that we have learned over time is that a tractor is like gold, especially when you got, because we have 21 acres here, and so anything over 5-10 acres, a tractor is a piece of gold, because there are times when you got to move a big rock, or you got to do this, you got to do that you just it becomes more cost effective to have the tractor than to spend the 3 or 4 days out there trying to do that one thing by hand, versus that you could get done in 45 minutes with a tractor.
Okay, and we do have a caller here, so let's find out who's on the line. This is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
What's happening? It's Zach. Stivers Homestead.
Zach.
How y'all doing tonight?
Well, we were just talking about you, Zach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, after it took me
All
about
nice
an
things,
hour
of
and a
course.
half trying to figure out how to get that passcode in there, I finally got in line.
There you go. There you go. So, Stephen, are you able to hear Zach okay?
I hear him. Yeah, he sounds great.
All right.
Man, Steven, how's it going?
Really good, Zach. I did it. Finally found the homestead.
Finally found it, man. I can't express like how excited I am for you. Like everything about your journey and what you're doing. Like I tell everybody, I'm like, Steven's about to make the garden of everyone's dreams. Like y'all have got to be watching him and be ready to see what he's about to do. I talk about it all the time. When you were here, all we were about was sustainability. Like that was it. Like preserve all of our food. That's what we want to do. We knew there was profit in that, in a way, but we didn't know how to do it. And like I can't express enough how you pushed us to kind of take that first step. Like you can do both. It's okay. And one of the things that you talked about was figuring out items in your area. And like for us, it was like comfort. Something that we were growing and we were using, but we didn't even think about how we could make it profitable. And it's just awesome how you opened our eyes for that. So I'm excited for you to be over in our neck of the woods. to see some of the different profit stuff. So I'm excited that you're near us. I'm excited that now we can kind of bounce things off each other and really figure out how to work both those things. So first off, thank you. And secondly, I'm excited, man. I'm excited you're here. I'm excited for us to be able to work together to really figure out the best way to do things over here in Kentucky and Tennessee.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you, man. Thanks for the kind words. It's really nice of you to say. Yeah, I'm really excited too, man. So yeah, we'll have to keep in touch and keep bouncing ideas off each other because I'm in a whole new world out here. This is it's a big learning curve. It's a different way to grow, and so many bugs, grass and weeds and all sorts of things I've never had. Deer, and we've even got bears out where I am.
Yeah, it's a whole different world in San Diego. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a question in here from Naked Gardener. Now that you are in Tennessee, is your mom and her garden missing you?
Yeah, I think it is. She's been harvesting lots of tomatoes though, and her basil, and she got all the radishes we planted. So, but actually, my parents are most likely they're gonna follow us out here, and they're gonna get a property out here too. So I'll be able to help her garden in Tennessee.
Okay, and I can see that a couple other people have tried to call in, and they're just having a little bit of trouble. But I'll tell you what, that's just because of all this COVID stuff and everything that's happened. They've had to put so much security on the phone lines and stuff that it's crazy.
Oh, weird.
But,
yeah,
it does work.
I can help out with that. So for anybody struggling because it's scrolling, just pause the video. So pause it for the number, let it play, pause for the meeting ID, then let it play, and then you get the passcode. That makes it much more simple. But I will hop off here. But Stephen, I'm excited that you're in this neck of the woods. Like you and I talked, our dream is also to be in Tennessee at some point in our life. So maybe one day our paths will cross again, and we'll be closer than even a state. But I'm happy for you. I hope all goes well, and I can't wait to follow the journey, man.
Well, thanks, brother. I hope to see you soon.
All right, y'all have a good night.
Later, Zach.
Okay, Zach, thanks for calling. Okay, so folks, the phone line does work. It doesn't bite. The numbers are scrolling across the top. And you have to put in the meeting ID and the password. I think it even asks you for your participant number, and you just press pound for that or something. But all of these extra steps have been introduced because of the massive coronavirus stuff that everybody's using Zoom and other platforms now that is causing some of these issues. So just be patient. Just follow the directions. You can get in, and as you heard, it's not too bad.
I moved over here on this side because we lost the ladies.
Well, I see that.
Yeah.
So.
We got room. We're big dudes, so we need room to stretch.
There's a question here that says, do you think you can get Kevin from Epic Gardening to move out of California?
I don't know. He just bought a home out there. I think, in the back of his mind, I think he'd like to get a property somewhere else too. But he's just started his little urban homestead, and he's detailing all about how he's building that. I think it's like a 3/4 acre lot. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can convince him. He's got lots of family in California, so it's harder to leave. But Kevin's an awesome guy. If you want to learn gardening, and he is just a wealth of information, and he puts out more content than anybody in the gardening space online.
Okay, and I know that in a couple of your videos and stuff, you've mentioned Curtis Stone. How much has Curtis Stone been an influence on your gardening? And do you know him?
I do know him. I do know him now. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, he influenced me in the way of really turning gardening or market gardening into a business. That's what he helped me the most with when I read his book, and just thinking about crops in a different way. So his whole, the whole 80-20 principle. So 20% of if you look at your crops, if you analyze it, 20% of the crops might make you 80% of the profit. And so you're just trying to like dial down what are the things that are making you the most money and throw away the rest that's not working. Double down on those things that make you the most money for the amount of time that you spend on it. So those, so he helped me really narrow down the crops that I grew to like 15 crops and just focus on those. You get really good at those. You get really good at succession planting so that you're, when something's coming out and something else is going back in, there's never a garden bed that's just sitting, waiting for a crop. There's transplants ready to go or you're direct seeding something. So those are some of the big takeaways from him and just the really go-getter kind of attitude that he has. And I don't know, 2 years ago probably, he came to San Diego because he works with Diego Footer and they have paperpot.co where they sell paper pot transplanters and all this on their website. So he was in town doing some other things and he came out to visit my market garden and he filmed it for his YouTube channel and his website. And so that's how I originally got to meet him. And then, maybe another year or more later or something like that, he contacted me and said, hey, I'm adding more content creators to my private site, which is fromthefield.tv. So that's where he does all of his more curated content and lots of different farm tours and stuff. So he asked me to come on to be part of that team, and now I make content for that website as well.
Okay, so that's just a totally separate thing from YouTube then, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally separate. So the idea is I'm sure you guys have seen just the massive amount of censorship, just deleting people's videos, banning people off of YouTube for whatever it may be. And so it's a way of hedging, having a place outside that YouTube can't control where we can say whatever we want and not have fear of repercussion. So it's a great site and it's really a lot of high level farming type content on a lot of different issues. And Curtis is just built like a 3/4 acre farm, and it's called SHTF farm. You probably know what that means. And designed for growing food specifically for sustainability and surviving through the crisis that is upcoming. So that's all detailed on that site.
Who would have thought that we would eventually end up in a world where you can be censored for talking about Jesus or be talking about a tomato? And those seems like they are the biggest things that people are getting hammered on. It's okay to eat Tide Pods, but you talk about a tomato and we're gonna have some issues.
Yeah, well, it talks about it in the Bible that these days are coming, and if you look at the UN Agenda 2030, it's all in there what they want to do. They don't want private farms anymore. They want us to all be slaves to a system, and so that's why I try to teach people how to grow their own food and how they don't need to buy commercial fertilizers. They can actually make their own fertilizers, and the more people that we can get self-reliant and off of this system, the better it's going to be when they try to they're trying to take control now. And the more we can resist that, the better. So that's something I'm pretty passionate about.
Was that another reason for your move?
Absolutely, yeah. I wanted to be out away from any city and away from the danger zone and be able to grow my own food and not have to worry about being dependent on anything except my community around me.
Well, I know you did some looking. Apparently, you visited Kentucky. You landed in Tennessee. What other states did you look at in your
Texas, North Carolina, but I eventually settled on Tennessee because I felt like, and the South in general, I just feel like the people here have more of a, they were called the rebels during the war for a reason. there are people that are not going to stand and take it. And I want to be around people like that who, when the fight comes to them, they're not going to cower and back down from it. So, it's the Bible Belt too. That's really important to me, that there's people here that believe in the truth, that Jesus is God. And that's been really something that's it's been amazing, actually, because when you're in California, like, nobody talks about God. There's no churches, they're hardly anywhere. There's most people are atheists, and I used to be an atheist, so it's I just really love the South and the mindset that a lot of people have here. It's so different than the West is.
What were some of the primary things you were looking for while you were searching for this homestead?
Well, at least 5 acres, a home that was in livable condition, that we could, if we needed to fix it up, we could. And we wanted some wooded. I wanted a couple ecosystems, so a field. I wanted some woods, and so I could do different types of things, like doing pigs in the forest or mushrooms. Having that resource of the wood that can be used for so many different things. And then I had to have a field out in front, either for pasturing animals or for my vegetable farm. So I wanted all those different aspects, and I was hoping maybe I could get a water source, like a pond or a stream or a spring, things like that. So I didn't get any of that, but at least I'm on a very good well. And then I can build ponds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can build a pond. You could probably might find, like, unbeknownst to us, when we bought ours, our pond is on a spring. When everybody else's ponds dry up, ours goes down to a certain level and it just stops. And it's it's very nice to have.
That's really nice, yeah.
I would like for you and I to get together and sit down and talk. You and I sound like we have a lot of things in common, and we kind of think on the same wavelength with things, because when we first came up and saw the land that we're on now, the guy that we bought it from, my wife and I looked at each other and said, this guy doesn't know what he's got. And it wasn't 6 months later, because as we were leaving, I had to stop and pray and say, Lord, do not let me get jealous of this man, because he's got he's got what we're looking for. Please let me just not get jealous, so I can help teach him, learn how to process pigs and do some of the other things that he wanted to do. And then he called one day and just said, you want to buy my place for what I owe? And so it was not a lot. So we jumped on it, and just listening to you describe the things that you were looking for, and I was like, that's exactly the mindset that my wife and I had when we were looking for ours. And I think you and I have a lot of things in common. We think a lot. Alike.
The question has come up in the chat. Do you own the mineral rights on the property you purchased?
The what? Do I own the what?
The mineral rights.
The mineral rights.
The stuff under the ground, all the gold and.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at the.
You would know.
Deed or something. I don't know.
You have to file a whole different.
Maybe I don't then.
Yeah, it's a real pain in the neck. And once we get better settled, we're going to go after the stuff for ours, because supposedly one of my kids found it. I don't know how true it is. I think Blaze is the one who found it, so it stands a really good chance of it being true. But during like the 1800s or whatever, during the whole gold rush era, there was a couple of fingers around here that supposedly people were hitting it. I don't know how true it is, but that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about, is making sure that you own the mineral rights, so that way the government can't come in and say, well, you're, according to this geographic map or this or that, your property has a lot of this minerals, and so we're going to confiscate it, so that way for the greater good of everybody, that we're going to mine this on your property. I forget what it's called. They have a phrase for it, because Trump pulled it a couple of times with business. I think he did it out there in California, and it was made where he was able to get away with it. But I can't remember what it's called. But it has its own name that they pull it out. They pull it out of nowhere. It's the same rule that when that if they want to widen the road, they can move the right of way over and take away some of your land for it, or whatever.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm blanking out what the term is. Yeah, well, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, there it is. JL Adventures, eminent domain.
Eminent domain, yes.
Eminent domain, yeah. So that's why a lot of people want to try to buy up their mineral rights, and you know, I've heard some people even going to the extreme of trying to buy the airspace around their property. You know, just having a large property that can get real expensive, but I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you know, and I guess a lot of folks that have drones, they have to start to kind of want to do that so they can fly their drone or whatever. But you know, that's and I think in some states it's a little bit harder to get the mineral rights than it is in other states. You know, but when we first started, when we were down in Augusta, we had, and hopefully this story is going to make you feel a little bit better about choice you made. We had a couple of interns. They were in the Army. There were 2 officers. I think one was a captain and the other one was a lieutenant. And they were brothers. They basically researched where in the lower 48 is the best place to be able to homestead. And they looked at taxes. They looked at soil conditions. They looked at different local laws about, you know, whether or not you could have a rooster and how many livestock that you could have. And it ended up being Tennessee. Tennessee was a state that had basically made it the best to homestead out of all the lower 48. So I forget what, you know, and it might be where you're at, somewhere around there, around Chattanooga or something. I can't remember exactly what, but it ended up being this little town in Tennessee where it was just, that was the best place. They had the best taxes, they had the best homeschool laws, they had the best soil conditions, all that. And it ended up being just this one little spot in Tennessee.
Interesting. Yeah, it is one of the better spots, I think. There's plenty of good states out there, but I just love Tennessee. I don't know, there's something about it that just I'm supposed to be here, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's where God placed you.
Absolutely. Yeah, He's led us here for sure the whole way. I've been praying about it for years, so it's amazing to finally be here. It's kind of hard to believe, honestly. We've been here 4 days since we bought the place, so.
Oh, Daryl took his headphones off.
Yeah, working on something else here.
Oh, okay. So I guess that could have gave me a thumbs up or something for me to take over.
Sorry, it's your show.
So, refresh my memory. My memory stinks. How you got what? 20 acres there in Tennessee that you have?
It's 16.
16. That's kind of close. And you said like 12 of it was wooded.
About, yeah.
Now, how much of that are you planning? You gonna let all 12 stay wooded?
Well, depends what happens in going into the future. I may open up some of it if I need more land, or I don't know yet.
One of the things that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just to say, like, I'm just trying to build my homestead food system and build out that front field. That's going to be a lot of work just doing that. So.
One of the things that made me smile every time, and you've said it over and over again, and you were talking about ecosystems. And I think sometimes we overlook the importance of, especially when it comes to homesteading, how important the ecosystem really is, because nobody really stops, if you think about it, nobody really stops and talks about it or does videos about it. I'm just as guilty. I haven't done a video about it. And that was one of the things here on this property that we had to bring back into balance, because if the ecosystem gets out of balance, then you have a tremendous amount of predators, or you have a tremendous amount of venomous snakes, or you have a tremendous amount of mosquitoes or aphids or squash bugs or anything. And there's always that delicate balance, and then trying to get it to go back into balance is you work 5 times as hard trying to get it to go back into balance. And one of the things, for example, that we kind of realized that we were on the right track is when all of a sudden we started hearing bullfrogs again. We started hearing bullfrogs on the property. And
Nice.
and yesterday we noticed we were out repairing a fence and we found some turkey feathers. So now we have wild turkeys in our section, which is
That's so cool.
which is really nice when you go from having an abundance of predators. Because when we first moved up here, our dairy cow was getting ready to calf, and she calved while we were moving out in the pasture somewhere. And the predators were so bad, by the time we got back up here the next morning, the calf was gone.
Oh,
You know? And so that was one of the things that you keep saying that you know, you want to get balanced ecosystems, and that just, you know, we as homesteaders and as stewards or husbands of the land and this planet, that's one of the things that I think that we should probably, and you know, I may be completely wrong, but I think we need to start to have more conversations about the ecosystems and the micro ecosystems and everything, and bringing it back so we can do what God has told us to do, which is to be good husbands of this planet. I mean, He put us in charge. He gave us dominion, and so you know, we
that's
really,
our role.
Yeah, we
that's
really
like
need
our
to
role
step
on
up
this
and do our
planet.
job. And you know, and I think for so long now we've kind of just have ignored that fact that we've been given that authority, and it's our responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the Garden of Eden, really. He gave it. That was our responsibility, was to be fruitful and multiply upon the land, and take care of the creation that He made for us, and expand our family, you know, under the umbrella of God. And yeah, that's. I don't know if you ever watched, you know, Garden of Eden, like Paul Gauchi, and he talks a lot about that stuff. I love listening to him tie in nature with God's plan and that stuff. I think it's spot on. And that's, you know, like going and living in the city is the exact opposite of that. And I think that if you look at the different cities that were destroyed in the Bible, Babel and Sodom and Babylon and all these places, there's something about humans grouping up in a place that is so the antithesis to nature or God's design, and it just goes to these very immoral places that ends up destroying that city. You know, anytime, you know, just like when we go after sin in our own life, it destroys us on a micro scale. And then on the macro scale, that's the city. And we're all going after our own desires as one unit, and that ends up destroying itself. And we know we're starting to witness a little bit of that right now in our cities. So.
Yeah, and you know, and you also look at our broken food system, and people want to say, you know, there's always family heritage that comes with diabetes and this and that, and then I always look at them and I say, well, then please explain how raccoons that live in the city, when they get caught and tested by a lot of these universities, these raccoons have diabetes because of them eating trash cans and eating all the processed foods and stuff like that. And that's not what we... And you look at it even further, God put everything... He knew what He was doing. He put everything on this planet that we need to be able to stay healthy, to be able to fight any illness, everything. I mean, look how powerful garlic is. Just one little bulb of garlic. Look, stop and look and see all the things that garlic can do for you. And then if you, the sunshine, just go outside, and how, you know, what that can do for your mental health and just for your health overall. Just go outside and
Totally, yeah. There's so much abundance here if we're willing to work to get it, and it's all here for us. You know, He loves us, and that's, you know, why He put it here. So. I'd love for more of humanity to come back to the recognition of this truth, and we'd all just be happier, healthier people in the end, and it would connect us to God. And that was one of the things for me that, you know, I believe there's some God or some spirit, something out there. But what really convinced me that there was a designer of this world is that. Is looking at how ecosystems interplayed together, and like at the base of all of it is the microbiome, microbiology, the soil biology that It's all related to our gut biology. It's so complex. It's so intricate, and it's an obvious design. It can't happen by chance. It's an impossibility. And for me, having that recognition of that is what led me back to admitting, yeah, there is a God, and He created this planet. He created me. Now, who is that God? And that led me down that path.
One of the things that I had an old beekeeping mentor, doctor, and he was a pastor also, Wayne Hunsaker. And every time that we would pop open a beehive, we would look inside that beehive, and he would look at me and he would say this every time: "Tell me there's not a God."
Yeah, man, it is so insane when you open up a beehive. Yeah. It is mind blowing.
And every one of those little bees, they have a specific job, and they know what their job is, and they know what they're supposed to do, and stuff like that doesn't happen by accident. Just like there's there are certain insects out there that one of their defenses is that they combine two parts of the fluid that's in their body, and it makes a poison.
Right.
So that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
What's it called? Irreducible complexity.
Yeah.
How could that bug you mentioned where it mixes the chemicals? How could they both be evolved independently to do that? It's not possible. It could never happen. Yeah. So.
And it was like, I think it was in one of Ken Ham's books, and because when our kids were real little, we've homeschooled since like Blaze was in the 3rd grade, and he's up out of the house now in the Marine Corps. But one of the things that Ken Ham put out these really great journals or guides to aquariums and zoos, and where was I going with this? There was a good story with that, and I hate it when that happens.
Ken Ham and...
Yeah. But in the book, I remember now, in the book, he basically kind of everybody wanted to how non-believers come and they want to say how is it that we share certain traits with apes and gorillas and certain like that DNA sequences with apes and gorillas, and his answer was, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, is that the same guy who designed the Porsche also designed the Volkswagen Bug, and you can see some of the same traits in the Volkswagen Bug that's in the Porsche and back in that, and in those guides you could go because when you go to an aquarium or a zoo, you're thrown into evolution. It's all about the theory of evolution.
Right.
But so how they counteracted that is he just lays it out, what it was said in Genesis, what it was, what it said in the Bible, and he backs all that, has it all up nice. And one of the funny things is that we were at the Georgia Aquarium and we were reading what it was said in there, and the next thing we know, we had a small group following us because of that book. But I think we are on the beginning steps, I think, of a great awakening. That's everybody uses revival, and they overuse that way too much, and sometimes you want to look at some people and go, I don't think that means what you think it means, but I think we're on the beginning steps of a great awakening happening, because people are starting to ask questions. I think, and that's how knowledge gets passed, is when people start to ask questions. Well, what happens when all of a sudden there's nobody working in the meat processing plant? How am I going to get my how am I going to get my pork chops?
Yep.
And I think when people start asking those questions and they start researching them, and then they come across channels like yours, mine, the Stivers, VW, Roots and Refuge, all those guys, and they stumble across these channels and they start to watch, and then I think light bulbs go off, and I think that's one of the times that we get to disciple, and we get to educate, and it really, I think it's just a natural progression, I think, because I don't know. I don't, and I could be wrong here, but I don't know a single person that does what we do and doesn't believe in God.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. You might know more.
I know a couple.
So you might know more
yeah,
from out there
I
in
mean,
California.
if you're homesteading and you're homeschooling your kids and all that, yeah, like most, yeah, there's a really good chance that you do follow the Lord.
Yeah, and it's because some of the things that happens is you can't explain away. It was designed to happen that way. You know,
it's hard to deny it. It's very hard to deny it. I mean, but I mean, it's easy to be deceived too. Some of the smartest people in the world believe lies too. So, yeah, being your own God is a very big temptation.
Yes.
Okay, we have another question here in the chat. You ever thought about making your own bokashi brand?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of bokashi composting and anaerobic fermentation in general. Yeah, I might make it. The thing is, like, I have a friend who makes it, and he's willing to send it to me to use it. So that's why I haven't, gone out to make it. But I've made the basic elements, like lactic acid bacteria, to be able to inoculate the brand. And I may do that someday, so I can at least show on my channel how to do that.
Sure. And there was a question also earlier that I'm afraid got away from us here. What is the one plant that you have the most problem with growing, but you do want to grow it?
Let's see. Well, as far as my market garden went, all the ones I wanted to grow, I didn't have too much problems with. Corn. I'll say corn.
Corn.
It's probably one of the harder ones. Yeah.
Then let me
I just don't have a lot of experience.
Let me have a follow-up question, because you're going to be growing in 2 different gardening zones. Is there going to be a specific vegetable or flower or really any plant that you were able to grow in California that you're not going to be able to grow over here, that you're just going to miss?
Yeah, I'd say some of the citrus. I can't grow citrus here really. I mean, you can kind of maybe get away with it, or bananas. Some of the more the tropical stuff that I can't do here because of the freezes. That's what I will miss. Dragon fruit and passion fruit's one of my favorites, but I know that it is possible to grow here in 7A if you do the right variety.
Well, so, and another question then, do you have plans to build a greenhouse?
Yes, I do have a 10 by 20 foot, so it's small. But I want to build a much larger greenhouse once the farm is in play. I think it'd be great to have that. I've been wanting to grow maybe some ginger or turmeric, and I think that's a pretty great crop because it's you plant it once and you harvest it once, and it just grows, and it's super medicinal. It has a high profit margin. So those are some crops I'm interested in playing with. I may even try to get away from some of the market garden crops that are constantly rotating and all that, because then it's just so much work to do that. Playing with maybe some garlic and onion and asparagus, rhubarb, things that are gonna take less effort from me, I guess.
Yeah, Sydney's saying here citrus in containers.
Okay. So doing containers, that's good to know.
So, well, Stephen, I'll tell you what, I certainly thank you for being here this evening.
My pleasure.
I know I have learned a tremendous amount, and I want to apologize right here to you and everybody. This was not our best show tonight. And I want to thank Big Bear Homestead for helping us out tonight.
I was about to take that personal for a second. What do you mean it ain't your best show?
Well, what I mean by that, we had the audio issues at the beginning.
I was only in the beginning. It was fine
We had the audio issues in the beginning. Sherry has not been able to stay with us here tonight. She's under the weather. we've had a crazy week. We had 2 flat tires coming down here, and it wasn't even the tires; it was the wheels that went flat.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
The wheels, huh?
the air actually permeated through the steel wheel.
Whoa.
Developed a little crack in the wheel, and that's what made the trailer tires go flat. So it's bad enough to have 1 flat tire on the trailer. You have 2, and
That's not fun.
and the weather here is not real conducive to working outside on the dirt underneath the trailer.
No, you have to do.
No, it is not.
You have to do it in. I don't know where he's at in Tennessee, but here you have to get up in the morning, run and do all your chores, start on a project. You can work on that project till about 12, 1 o'clock. Come in, eat lunch, but plan on not really going. That's when you do your inside stuff. You do all your homeschool, or you do any of your research or reading that you need to do to about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then you're out there till 9, 10 o'clock, and then you can come back in and get ready to do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're at the heat of the day, usually it's between 3 to 5 o'clock around here. I mean, that's when it's just gonna beat you down, and it's just gonna suck the life out of you. You know, so you got to learn to do things in different phases. You know, when most people are coming in 5, 6 o'clock and they're kind of relaxing and stuff, we're kind of doing that at 2, 3.
Right.
You know, and then in the evening time, that's when we're out there rolling up the smart fence, or we're building the next paddock, or doing whatever it is that we need to do to be able to make things go smoothly the next day. You just and it's different. It's different for everybody. You're gonna have Stephen. You're gonna have a different pattern there in the part of Tennessee that you're at. You know, because folks in Arkansas and Texas, they have their times, and it's different for everybody. And that's one of the things. Just like learning your land and where your wet spots are and where your dry spots are, you have to learn in different parts of the season how your weather kind of acts on an average, so you know when it's safe to be out and in some of the elements, And that was one of the questions that I had that I forgot to ask. You were talking about doing swells and this. Are you going to try to do hugelkultur at all?
I might mess with it, but I don't think that hugelkultur makes sense for a production farm. I've never seen it in a way that it made sense for production. But yeah, on my homestead, I'm really interested in that. I think in the climate that we have here in Tennessee with all the rain, I have access to tons of wood. It will rot so much quicker and break down, as opposed to in San Diego, there's like 10 inches of rain a year. That's not the place to do hugelkultur. But doing it here, I think I would definitely mess with it, because it'll work really well here because of how much rain we get. Yeah. I think it would become a really low maintenance, high fertility system. So yeah, I'd love to play with that, especially if I can let things go to seed and then let it replant itself and do things like that. It could be really interesting.
Yeah, we do it in raised beds here, and basically how you were talking about.
Sure.
You got that one spot that's just for y'all, and that's where where we do it in our raised beds. But we end up putting wood chips in instead of the logs and stuff like that. That'll probably down just maybe even just a little bit faster. But the nice thing about it is it feeds it from the bottom, and then you mulch on top, and feeds it from the top, and you've got the party going on in the soil.
Well, Stephen, what about aquaponics?
I like it. I've actually built an aquaponics system like 6 or 7 years ago or something. I can't remember when. But I followed Murray Hallam, who's the Australian kind of guru, and I built the 3 IBC tote system. Mm-hmm. And we ran that for like a year, but then I went off to Korea, so my parents took care of it, and eventually it kind of sputtered out. But I really like aquaponics, and I'm really curious to mess with that more. That's another thing. There's so many things I want to do, but I'm curious about doing aquaponics where you use an actual pond and filter that water through.
I always wanted to kind of play with that here, but when we started trying, because you're in 7 alpha too, so tilapia just does not do well here. It can't unless you stick your fish inside a greenhouse to be able to handle the winter. And so I got to thinking, well, you know, I got a bunch of catfish in my pond. I could throw the baby catfish in there, blah blah blah. And then I got to thinking, you know, then as you start thinking about stuff and you go, you know, well, catch the baby catfish out of the pond, put it in there. Well, wait a minute, why can't I just leave the baby catfish in the pond and just take the water out of the pond? That's just, you know, I would love to be able to try to figure out how I can get. I would love to see if you could be able to get it and then maybe copycat it here with our pond.
There's got to be a way to do it. I mean, especially if the pond is up at elevation and then you have your bed systems below it, and you see the pump to send it back up there. If it's the right elevation, it can work out really good, I think.
Yeah. See, Grizz is chiming in here saying that he's eaten aquaponic food and lack of flavor. He's not impressed.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, growing in the soil is going to be the ultimate because that's the way it was designed. All of the plants and the vegetables that we eat, they've adapted over time with the soil biology to communicate with each other, to transmit nutrients to each other. The plant will tell the microbes, hey, go break down this mineral over here with your acids and then bring it back to me and then feed it to me. So I think that ultimately, you know, soil's the best. Yeah, we can do it with a lot of other methods too. And aquaponics is cool though because then you're raising fish organically as well. So I think it's an interesting thing. I'm not into hydroponics whatsoever. I don't think that we should even go down that road, personally.
I think aquaponics would work more. Like one of the things when I was in college and getting my horticulture degree, one of the things that I got really intrigued by was rooftop gardening. Being able to, you know, I just think that's my dog. Sorry. I just think that being able to do something like that would be really cool. Now there's a couple places in Greenville that have taken it and run with it, but they do hydroponics, and I'm kind of like the same there with you. That just don't. I don't think that's a good road to go down.
It's chemical farming without the soil.
Yeah.
And it's where you could throw some raised beds up on the roof, especially in a place like Greenville. It raises them. You're up above everybody. You throw a couple of beehives up there. You can even do a humiculture in there with putting the wood chips and stuff down in there. And you could raise a good amount of food up there, especially if you do some square foot gardening in those raised beds. You could really
you can.
You know, you could yield a lot. And I've always been intrigued by doing something like that.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been on for an hour and 40 minutes or so, and it has been absolutely a very interesting night. I want to do this again for a couple reasons. Sherry was not able to be with us for most of this tonight, and she loves this kind of stuff, and also want to continue to follow up on your journey here, Stephen. Your
thank you.
Your Tennessee journey.
I'm excited about it too.
And by all
I'm glad my 4G worked out too. This is the first time I've tried really live streaming and no issues, so that's good.
Yeah, it's worked very well. Of course, this is not like a YouTube live stream. You know, the Skype uses a lot less.
Right.
But by all means, you get yourself in touch with Big Bear Homestead, my co-host here this evening. Okay.
I will.
Yeah, Jason is absolutely a wealth of knowledge. He's a little rough around the edges, but he's okay.
Sounds good to me.
I resemble that remark.
And
I would like for us to get together sometime, Stephen. I think you and I.
Oh, I'd love that.
I think we share a lot of the same points of view, and I think we think a lot alike, and I think we could definitely benefit from a friendship here, because you were talking about propagating some stuff. It's like if you don't have muscadines on your property, I got over 200 foot of it. You're more than welcome to come down. We could air propagate them, you could take cuttings. I've got a plethora of black walnut trees. By all means, please come take some cuttings.
Nice. I'd love to learn some stuff about pigs from you too. I don't know if you ever need help butchering or I don't know anything. I'd
Don't say that, because I will call you this winter, because you know.
No, I want to come, man. These are skills that I don't have. I've never butchered or chicken or animals, and I'm desperate to learn how to do that stuff.
Well,
So
not this weekend, but the following weekend. We have some meat birds that we have let live way too long. They're like mini turkeys. I'm gonna be honest with you. But we've got my acupuncturist doctor. He's coming over. Naturally NC, they're coming down to come over, and you are more than welcome to come down.
All right.
Get your hands dirty processing some chickens with us. I think we've got like 25 or 30 birds that we need to go ahead. They should have been processed.
All right, well, that sounds
a long
fun.
time ago.
That sounds like a good time. Well, yeah, I'll get in contact with you.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
Stephen, just kind of hang on there. Any last words from you that you'd like to throw out to anybody, or everybody that is in the chat? Just be sure to visit, his channel, website, Facebook, Instagram. What all else you got? Everything, right?
Everything. I'm on all the different, blockchain, like BitChute and Library, all the platforms that can't be censored. I put all my stuff up on there now too. So yeah, it's Nature's Always Right for anything online, and my website is naturesalwaysright.com. And I just like to say, yeah, you guys just keep up the great work growing food for your families, and just keep planting more and more food. If you haven't raised chickens yet or anything like that, you should definitely get started on that. It's never too soon to start.
Okay, and yeah, now don't go anywhere. Another thank you to Big Bear Homestead, all the help that they've offered us and hosting us down here this weekend.
Can I time out Naked Gardener? Just since we're ending, can I just time it out?
Can you just time out Naked Gardener?
Yeah.
That's between you two guys. So anyway, just remember, folks, if you hold your nose, you can't hum. Take care, everybody. Have a good evening. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.